Vasilievsky Island is the largest one in St. Petersburg. This very island was to become the administrative center of the new capital, as planned by Peter I. Merchant ships were to pass through the entire island via a wide canal from the sea to the spit. The Tsar divided the island by 400 rectangular sections intended for development of houses for distinguished citizens of Petersburg. Nevertheless, citizens did not move in a hurry to the new island, notwithstanding the menacing decrees of the Tsar, as there were no bridges and the low island was often flooded, but still, a lot was built there even during the reign of Peter the Great. Peter wanted to cover the entire island by a dense network and turn it into the sort of Amsterdam he had seen. However, this plan never came to fruition. Only few canals were dug, and even those had a short life. They were too narrow for ships, and finally citizens polluted them with the sewage. In 1770s, the canals were buried by the decision of the City Planning Commission. There are lots of legends connected with the name of Vasilievsky Island. Some historians claim that this name is associated with a certain man, Vasily Korchmin, gunner officer, who had his artillery battery to ward off the Swedish Navy, and got thus letters addressed to Vasily in the island. He was commemorated with a lively statue in the 7th line, the pedestrian street. The name might be a distortion of its previous Finnish name, because the island has been shown on maps before its present Russian history began after the Northern War. Finnish etymology may lead to a word Vasikasari, Calf Island. Another known Finnish name of the island was Hirvisaari, Elk or Moose Island.
A sundial is a device which tells the time of day and apparent position the sun in the sky. It consists of the dial and gnomon, which cast the shadow onto the dial. As the sun moves across the sky, the shadow aligns with different hour lines, which are marked on the dial. Before the war, Vasily Pryanchnikov was a specialist in astronomy. In spring 1943, he created the sundial in Vasilievsky Island, in spite of the war and blockade. This sundial stood there until the end of war, and in 1945 it was dismantled. Leningrads checked here their watches and got together support each other. The idea to revive this sage relic was realized in 216. It is the memorial of the courage of Leningrad's residents. The project was developed on the basis of historical photography. On the 75th anniversary of the beginning of the blockade, the sundial was recreated. Order of St. Andrew the First Call. The order is the highest order of the Russian Federation, established as the first highest order of the Russian Emperor in 1698. It was abolished under the USSR and reestablished as the top Russian order in 1998. The order was established in 1698 by Tsar Peter the Great, in honor of Saint Andrew, the first apostle of Jesus and patron saint of Russia. It was solemnly awarded for the most outstanding civilian or military merit. The bust of Admiral Golovin. Fyodor Alexeyevich Golovin was one of the nearest associates of the Peter I. He was a diplomat and statesman. His activity in the epoch of Peter's reforms was wide and varied. The States Chancellor, the General Field Marshal, the General Admiral, the President of the Ambassadorial Affairs, the Commander of the Navy Order, the Head of the Armory, Gold and Silver Chambers. In November 1698, Peter I established the First Russian Order, the Saint Apostle Andrew I called. Fyodor Alexeyevich Golovin became the first Chevalier of the Order. The legend says that according to the advice of Golovin, Peter I pointed the foundation Peter and Paul Fortest exactly at the mouth of the river Neva, to discontinue the Swedish army during the Northern War. The monument was unveiled on the 6th of June in 2007.
The pharmacy of Dr. Pearl and Sons was founded in 1858 by Dr. Pearl. His business was quite successful. Even today people can buy medicines developed by him. But this doctor wasn't just a pharmacist, he was also an alchemist. One of the most famous in history, Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev, was a welcome guest in his house. According to a legend, Dr. Pearl played an important role in inspiring the famous periodic table of Mendeleev. In the yard of the pharmacy, there is Griffin's Tower. It is 11 meters high, 2 meters in diameter. It has no windows and doors, and his bricks are all numbered. There is a mystic story connected to this tower. It is said, some people think, that Dr. Pearl carried out his experiments here. They think he tried to breed griffins. That's why the tower got its name. But this is not the only mystic story. Another one is about numbers on its bricks. People say that the numbers change over time, appearing and disappearing, and that in one particular moment they will line up in the code of happiness, or the universal code. And if someone appeared in front of the tower at this very moment, his wish would come true. The pharmacy still functions to this day. Ancient photos with the names in Latin and ampoules with medications from the early 20th century can be found here.
The garden's establishment was started in 1768. It was designed for the needs of academy students. The new plan of the garden was made in 1847, that still exists. Initially, Alexander Brylov developed the plan of 4 pavilions in Greek, Persian, Egyptian and Roman styles, but only pavilion with Greek columns was made. The new roads and paths were paved and a fence was made. In 1817, a granite column appeared on the crossroad of the garden's alleys. It was a spare part of the Our Lady of Kazan's Cathedral's colonnade. Architect Voronichin, the author of Kazan Cathedral, supposed to build the sphere on the top of the column. But it was replaced by a lion, the symbol of fine arts. The column was presented to the Academy afterwards to commemorate the anniversary of its foundation. In 1890, the new iron curtain fence was made. In the southwestern corner of the garden, there is a battle workshop. Here students painted sketches of riding horses and riders. The garden of the Imperial Academy of Arts is connected with the name of Peter Claude. He is a famous sculptor and the author of Monument to Nicholas I, Monument to Krylov, and the Tremors of Anichkov Bridge. His foundry, where he worked, is on the left side of the garden.
Monument to Kosta Hitagurov. In 2009, there was unveiled the monument to Kosta Hitagurov in Fine Arts Academy Garden. He was called the Citizen Leonardo da Vinci because he was gifted with many talents. He was a poet, a writer, a playwright. He was a theatrical critic. He was a translator, an ethnographer, a musician, and a painter. In 1879-1883, he studied in St. Petersburg Imperial Academy of Art. Today he returned there the sculptor Vladimir Saskiev, the compatriot of Kosta Hitagurov.
The monument to Pyotr Claude. Pyotr Karlovich Claude was born in 1805 in St. Petersburg. After he had graduated from the artillery school in St. Petersburg and a brief service, Claude, fascinated by molding and carving, devoted himself to sculpture. In 1830, he joined as a volunteer the Academy of Fine Arts. Later, Claude received a large government contract and, together with sculptor Pimenov and Malinovsky, participated in creating the sculpture group of horses of the Narva Triumphal Gate. Claude earned the European fame owing to the dams of horses, the ensemble of Anichkov Bridge, as under the order of Nicholas I, the sculptor group were sent as a gift to the Prussian king and to King of Sicily.
Claude was engaged with decoration of the St. Isaac's Cathedral. He created the reliefs and the sculptural group Christ in Glory above the holy doors of the chief iconostasis. During these years, the sculptor created the bas-relief St. George on horseback for the George Hall in the Grand Kremlin Palace in Moscow. According to a graphic sketch of Alexander Brylov, Claude made the 70-meter sculptural relief horse in the service of man for the office building of a marble palace. In 1849, Claude won the competition of projects of the monument to the Russian fabulist Ivan Andreevich Krylov to be set up in the Summer Garden. At the same period, Claude was working with the monument to Prince Vladimir of Kiev. The last major work by Claude was the equestrian statue of Nicholas I on the St. Isaac's Square. It has only 2 points of support, which is a rare engineering solution in the history of monumental sculpture. During almost 30 years, Claude headed the Foundry House in the Art Academy Garden, developing a number of improvements to the process of artistic casting. Sculptor Vladimir Gorevoy created the monument for the anniversary of Pyotr Karlovich Claude in May 2006. The sculptor created the bronze figure on his own initiative and at his own expense.
A plaque is installed at number 13, at the second line of Vasilievsky Island, on the house where the Leningrad schoolgirl Tanya Savacheva kept her diary during the years of the siege. The diary consists of a few pages with brief notes, but these pages became known all over the world and served as an accusatory document against war and fascism during the Nuremberg trials. The plaque was unveiled on 27th of January 2005, on the 61st anniversary of the complete liberation of Leningrad from Nazi siege. Although Tanya was rescued and transferred to a hospital, in 1844 she died because of tuberculosis. She was only 14.
The mosaic workshop of the Imperial Academy of Art was opened in 1851 to replace the painted icons of St. Isaac's Cathedral to mosaic ones, since the mosaic art hadn't been used in Russia for about 100 years, and they needed to revive it. Several Russian artists graduating from the Academy of Fine Arts were sent to Rome for training, and Italian Vincenzo Raffaelli arrived in St. Petersburg to open the